That's the feeling with Capital One, where a new savings account earns an interest rate 5 times the national average. That's right, 5 times, as represented by 5 times more singers. This is banking reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Rate comparison based on FDIC national rate. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
When it comes to your vehicle, you've got a fuel gauge to check the gas, a temperature gauge for your engine, and to check your battery, you've got, well, Advance Auto Parts. Advance has free battery testing and automotive battery installation with no appointment necessary. And if you're dusting off those ATVs, motorcycles, and jet skis, we've also got $10 off select power sport batteries after mail-in rebate. Your summer's waiting. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
For your Gulf Coast Sports Minute, I'm JP. Pensacola Sports recently presented 36 awards and over $100,000 in scholarships at their annual Senior Scholar Athlete Banquet, which of course was held virtually this year. Kaylee Herring from Gulf Breeze and Nicholas Dimitrioff from Catholic High won the overall female and male scholarships respectively. For the UWF Argos men's basketball team, Coach Burkhammer is having a pretty good offseason. After recently attaining a couple of JUCO transfers, the squad assigned yet another transfer in Wendell Matthews. The 6'7" forward averaged over 16 points a game last year for North Iowa Area Community College. In our recruiting spotlight this week, Marquise Robinson for the Milton Panthers. At 6'3", 300 pounds, the big defensive lineman, they call him Big Baby, but make no mistake, there's nothing childish about his game. This young man is an absolute dominant force between the tackles. He possesses great size and rare quickness for the position. Robinson is a 4-star recruit and ranked as the number 18th defensive tackle in the nation by 247 Sports. His offers include Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, and Florida State. That's your Gulf Coast Sports Minute. I'm JP.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies, and rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, for a man age 45 non-tobacco user, it's $1 million of coverage at $75 per month, level rate for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110 per month, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rate guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates available for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for a new or replacement term life insurance, call today for a quote at 1-866-929-1950. That's 1-866-929-1950. You're probably paying more than you should. Call Term Busters at 1-866-929-1950. That's 1-866-929-1950. Remember, 1-866-929-1950. Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes for preferred non-tobacco underwriting. Exam required to qualify.
What's up, Chad here from the Sports Drive. Well, no sports to talk about. March Madness canceled, every major sport, so maybe you get to spend some more time around your family. Oh, what? Not supposed to touch anybody? Well, just go home and watch Price is Right. But if you are older, you have a better chance of getting it. Right, Mike Gundy? Oh, 40? You should be all right. And he won't be broadcasting sports, but one guy that feels the same way we all do with no sports, probably Joe Buck.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
Sports Drive 5 to 7 with no sports.
Pensacola's own NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith has some tips for us during this time.
This fight is up to all of us to try to help bend that curve. It's going to take teamwork. It's going to take us to stay committed, stay focused, and stay dedicated to the mission at hand, and that is to keep everyone safe. So be encouraging. Find some support. Find someone to talk to every day to encourage them to keep on continuing in this fight. And we will beat this pandemic.
For your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts, I'm JP. The NCAA required college football players to study during halftime until 1925. Now that's putting the student back in student athlete. The Houston Rockets did not discover until the 14th game of the 1984-85 NBA season that their home arena rims were set at 9 feet 7 inches. And golf balls were originally made out of dried cow eyeballs. Ugh. Remember that next time you're teeing off on the front nine. That's your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts. I'm JP.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gulick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome into Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach K. Stevenson. On this Friday afternoon, weekend's right around the corner. We appreciate you joining us. Listen, we're going to be talking some football with you. We got a special show ahead as well. Look, as always, I want to start off the show thanking our first responders and our healthcare workers this time. Each and every day we do this, and it goes without saying right now in this time what they've been able to do for us. What they do each and every day, putting themselves out there on the front line here. And look, we thank them so much. And if you're listening and you're one of those folks right now, well, we send our greatest gratitude out to you. We thank you so much here from ESPN Pensacola, from Talk Football with Coach K. We hope that, we can separate you from whatever's going on right now and give you a little sports. And listen, that goes without saying as well for our essential workers, like our essential workers from grocery store employees, truck drivers, maybe your restaurant that's been open. We thank you so much for what you've been able to do right now, making our lives as normal as possible. But it just goes without saying at a time like this, our community's really stepped up. Everybody's done their part, and we just appreciate you so much. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us today as well. Listen, 850-623-1330 is the studio line here. Give us a call. Let us know what's on your mind. Look, 12:15, Jim Haslett will be joining the show, and you know what? It's going to be a lot of fun. But, Coach, look, I know you feel the same way when we're talking about thanking our first responders and healthcare workers, of course, and all the essential employees out there. But how are you doing today on this Friday afternoon?
I'm doing well, and I certainly agree with you on making that a part of our show every day. We can't thank them enough. So we don't even have enough time in the hour to go over what has been contributed on their part.
Hey, Coach, of course, like I said, 12:15, Jim Haslett, I know he's a great friend of yours, a great friend of the show as well. Now he doesn't know this, but he's a great friend of mine, being one of the Tennessee Titans. He's a coach, of course, now the inside linebackers coach. But no, he's going to join the show, and he's going to give us some pretty good insight on what's going on the NFL side of things.
Yes, he is, and in fact, you're going to get an inside view of quite a few things that people aren't aware of, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about times for reporting and times for players coming in and all this baloney. But it's all pretty much on schedule. If you go back to the old NFL schedule in particular, times aren't too different. Now, there's a difference in the way that we got here, certainly with, having to do it virtual, the meetings and so on. But everything is to a point where camps and so on should start pretty much on as they have in the past. And, keep in mind, June is not really a month that you did too much with the players in June other than meetings, OTA meetings there, 1st of June up to the middle, maybe of June or a little less. And then they had June and the rest of June off and 1st of July until camp started. And camp usually started in the middle of July. So kind of keep that in mind as we go through and find out what the Titans are doing and what a lot of other people are doing. And you will probably realize that we're not too far off.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, a lot of people around here, of course, we'll get into it a little bit in a few minutes, but you remember Jim Haslett as well, the former Saints coach, led those teams to the playoffs. Pretty good teams there. Of course, he was a heck of a linebacker when you talk about for Buffalo and the Jets and All-Pro. Even played at IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. UWF beat them a few years in the playoffs, but he's tough as nails and a guy that, when you talk about an inside linebackers coach, I don't think you're going to find a better one in the NFL right now. But it's going to be interesting to hear what he's got to say. But, Coach, I want to transition here to the college football side of things. Now, of course, everything is changing each and every day as we go along in this time. Kirby Smart came out and said, listen, a lot like what you have mentioned, Coach, these players are safer working in a campus aspect. And what he said was there's obviously some apprehension and questions, but those same questions, whether they're in Huntsville or they're in Macon or they're in Columbus, Georgia, he said, I know our facility is one of the safest, and we certainly have the ability to care for the facility better than a lot of places they can go back home. He pointed, of course, to the protocol set up by Georgia's longtime director of sports medicine, Ron Corson, who's one of the most respected athletic trainers in the nation there. And he did say that the Bulldogs will work in small groups, giving them plenty of room to spread out in the school's spacious weight room. He said a cleaning crew will go through the facility after each session. The locker rooms will not be used right now. And like he said, look, usually they would work out in big groups. Of course, everybody rooting everybody on, doing what you got to do here. He said right now they're going to be divided into groups of 7, of course, spread out. So it's going to be interesting to see. But he said, Coach, I bring this up just because this is what you've mentioned from the get-go, is bringing these players in. They're in a controlled facility. They're going to clean. They're going to do their protocols. They're going to have masks. They're going to have gloves for the coaches and trainers there. This is a lot safer than them being out on their own. I mean, back home, let's be honest, these are kids that are 17 to 22 years old typically they're not just going to stay cooped up in their home. They're going to go out. They're going to, socialize with people. Having them in this facility here is a lot safer than having them back home.
Well, there's no question about it. And as far as working out, doing whatever they're going to do from a conditioning standpoint and so on, just keep in mind now, these, especially the larger schools, they have multiple dressing rooms and multiple accommodations for people. It's not just one room that they're going to be confined to. They could put to utilize all of the dressing rooms they might have available. They could spread people out all over the stadium, to dress for whatever activity they're going to do. And the same would be true with spreading out weight equipment and other strength and conditioning type equipment. They can spread them out pretty good, JP. That's the moral of the story. And they certainly have the ability to make sure that these kids don't take any chances with this virus.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach, Kirby also goes on to talk about these players will be screened each and every day, multiple times a day, just of course with precautions and everything going on right now. So he said they'll be looked at a lot differently than they normally would, just because of the time. So for people out there that how are we bringing guys in right now? Understand that this is it's almost, when you really think about it, like a hospital style setting. Everything's going to be disinfected thoroughly. You're going to have guys spread out. People will be doing their own things. These players will be taken care of. Understand this, and understand that these schools know the risk of bringing these guys in as well, just because the last thing they want is some kind of breakout that happens here. So just understand that, look, they understand what they're doing. They're going to do the best. And look, this is great moving forward for college football. But Coach, to stay with the college football style of talk here, Iowa, of course, coming out and saying they're among the schools planning to play in front of all the fans this season. Now, of course, people, we understand things can change, but right now, from what they're getting, the good news moving forward, what they believe is they'll be able to pack Kinnick Stadium there in Iowa, which averaged about 65,000 fans last year. Maybe it's a little too optimistic, but regardless, Athletic Director Gary Barta said that that's their plan right now. He said, of course, we have it modeled where we can reduce crowds if we need to. He goes, it'll all come on the guidelines from the CDC, but right now, of course, like a lot of other teams, they're planning for full stadiums. And rightfully so. They don't have to make that decision yet, so everybody calm down. But one thing that I want to talk about with this, Coach, is that's great news. Absolutely. But he come out and said, listen, he doesn't want athletes who don't want to train or compete because of the COVID-19 concerns. They won't face any repercussions with their status or scholarships. Now, Illinois athletic director said something to the same extent here. My question is, this may not be such a big deal for the University of Iowa. This may not be such a big deal for University of Alabama or LSU or other teams like Georgia or Clemson, because the majority of these players are going to want to play. They've made that very clear. They can't wait to get back at it. But there probably is going to be a few guys that maybe want to step aside. Maybe they have some complications and they don't want to come back. But, Coach, saying that, there's going to be no repercussions, you're going to keep your scholarships, that looks great on paper, but that is not going to work for some of these smaller schools. I mean, do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I think the larger schools will have no problem doing that. Now, stop and think about it. This is a subtle recruiting tool as well. If you, this is another way that they can offer more in the way of stability to a student athlete than could a smaller school or mid-sized school. Smaller schools and even mid-sized schools, they have a basket of money for scholarships, and they have so many scholarships in there, and that's it. You can't expand that anymore. So if they either cut their number of scholarship athletes so that they have scholarships available, but they're going to lose something. They just don't have additional scholarship or the money to provide additional scholarships for players. And under those circumstances, I know it sounds like the right thing to do, and it's good. If you can do it, it is the right thing to do. But not everybody's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, people have to remember that, and it's we'll see. Like I said, for like you mentioned with these small schools here, they're up against the gun, and it can be used. Like you're right. You know what? That is a great point. It can be used as a little bit of a subtle recruiting tool. But Coach, I know we got a few minutes here before we go to break, but look, the NFL. We talked about this, the 4th and 15 rule. They of course met yesterday. They 4th and 15 rule, if you didn't know, was an alternative to the onside kick. Now, they had said that you can do it twice a game, and you can do it any time of the game, but you can do it twice. It's a 4th and 15 from your own 25 there. I think that's important. We talked about that plenty, Coach. Of course, yesterday it was tabled, did not pass, and a lot of people are talking about this, including Pittsburgh Steelers president Art Rooney. He said that, listen, 4th and 15 plays over the past 10 seasons were almost at 27%. And it seems pretty high. Well, when you think about the onside kick was just below 10%, people were worried. And the chairman of the competition committee, Rich McKay, said, listen, the last thing we want is to make the comeback too easy, to get a team that's behind because, well, they just didn't play up to par so far. And you can't punish another team that maybe not built like that in order to make the comeback too easy here. So, Coach, this is I think this is good. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, what? They had an opportunity here to step up and make a change, and they didn't. They missed out. But I think this is overall probably right now good for the NFL that this didn't pass.
Well, we've talked about this a number of days now, and I've maintained all along that I really had some second thoughts and could not commit to it one way or the other. I was not a defensive coach, but I can't imagine defensive coaches not putting together a tremendous effort to avoid that. And any head coach, if you're ahead in the ball game and you work the whole ball game to get ahead, and then to allow somebody in one play, untimed at that, to get back at it and go on and beat you, well, what a terrible, terrible loss that would be. I could see that even costing coaches jobs. So I'm hesitant. I'm glad they're not going to do it right now. They really need to think through this a little more and get the input from a number of coaches. If it's the majority decision to do it from coaches, then fine, go do it. But if not, I would be very hesitant to put coaches, and that's just another trap for coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I am glad that regardless whether it can be great for the NFL or not, they're taking their time on this. And once again, we go back to the pass interference rule. They got rid of that, and they said they learned their lesson, that they will take their time in implementing new rules. So for those that were wondering about the Sky Judge, well, the Sky Judge was not going to be voted on yesterday anyway. That is for next year. They're just maybe going to try an experiment out in the preseason. We don't even know all the details with that, so we'll see what happens with that as well. But, Coach, we got to go to a break here. When we come back, Look, former New Orleans Saint head coach here, Jim Haslett, will join the show. He is now the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. That's awesome to hear. But anyway, he'll join the show when we come back just to talk about the inside track of what's going on right now in the NFL. All that and more right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
If you are a collector, investor, or just an avid sports fan, then listen up. Coins, sports cards, and racing collectibles in Gulf Breeze has one of the largest sports memorabilia collections in the area, with new inventory arriving weekly. If Hot Wheels is your thing, they have that too, with old, new, and special edition models to choose from. At Coins, sports cards, and racing collectibles, you can buy, sell, or trade. Located on Highway 98 in Gulf Breeze, Coins, sports cards, and racing collectibles is the place to go to collect either for fun or to invest for profits.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Friday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. We're talking some football with you, and we have a special guest joining the show with us as always. You've heard him on here plenty, but listen, you remember him? Look, there's a former second-round pick in the NFL draft out of IUP right there. Got to give him a shout-out. Played, of course, at Buffalo for the Bills and played for the Jets. One of the toughest linebackers around, not to mention an all-pro. And look, you remember his great playoff teams there in New Orleans. Now the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. It's so good to say that. I love the Titans and appreciate Coach Haslett coming on the show. Coach, I know he's a great friend of yours, but go ahead and I'll let you take the reins here.
All right, appreciate it, JP, and I know what a fan you are of Tennessee Titans, so this should be a special treat for you. Jim, we appreciate you taking the time to come on with us.
I'm good, Coach. How you doing? Everything good?
Everything's well, buddy. Listen, I want to get right to some things. Well, first, let me I have to tell a little story about Jim. Jim came to a small school, Indiana University, PA, in Pennsylvania, And Chuck Knox, who was the head coach at Buffalo at the time, always had a problem with small school guys getting the right recommendation, the right score on them to make that decision. So he had the offensive coaches take a look at Jim. We had gotten a lot of good word about Jim, but Chuck wanted other opinions. So he had us take a look. We liked him very much. Of course, there were a couple of offensive coaches there who wouldn't know anything about personnel, so he didn't worry about them. But we liked Jim very much. And so just to make sure, about 3 days before the draft, he sent one of our top scouts, talent scout, who he had a lot of respect for the guy's opinion, a guy named Chase Single, who was played for Bear Bryant in Kentucky. And Chink was a good old Southern country boy. And anyway, he goes down to look at Jim, work Jim out, and he comes back, and we're in the draft room. I never will forget this. I've never heard a stronger recommendation. We're in the draft room, and I'm talking when Chink gets back, and Chuck asked him what he thought of Jim and where we had Jim on our board. And he said, Coach, I'll tell you, you get a chance, you better draft that boy. He's going to be an all-pro. So we moved Jim up considerably on our board and ended up drafting him. But had Chink not gone down and come back with that strong of an opinion, no telling what the story may have been different. So anyway, kind of an interesting story. But Jim, I know you've just been in meetings. Of course, you've been in virtual meetings all along with the coaches, but you've just been in meetings. It looks like they're going to try to open things up. But what is the schedule? What is the proposed schedule at Tennessee right now? We'll just stick with your team.
Well, we've been meeting every day, as a staff, like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I meet with the assistant linebacker coaches, and we get things ready for practice and for the future practice. And then 8 o'clock, the defensive staff gets together, and we get together from like 8 to 11, 11:15 sometimes, take a little lunch, and then meet with the players, meet with all the linebackers from noon to 1:20. And then I break up and then give them a break, and then we meet with the rookies till about 3 o'clock. So it's an all-day thing. It's actually been much better than I thought, Coach. I don't know how, I think players nowadays learn more through walkthroughs and actually seeing it. So we're getting a little bit of that. We're doing some interesting things that I never thought was possible, where we'll do we call it a mobile classroom, where we kind of give them formations and plays, and they got to go across the board. I got a couple of linebackers. They'll say, "I give it to me." He'll say, "Well, the corner's doing this, linebackers are doing this, the D-line's doing this, the safety's doing this." I said, "Well, tell me who you got. Finally, who you got covered?" I got number 3 on the crosser. So that stuff's pretty good because they can see it and they can visualize it. It's time-consuming, but it's nothing more than being on the field and walking through it. So it's actually been much better than I thought. It's gone smoothly. We haven't had a lot of issues with the Zoom. I'm sure that all this virtual stuff will somehow kind of take over the country. But I still think it's much better when you're with them in person. You got a relationship with them, and I can talk to them and joke around a little bit. You try to do that on the tape or on the Zoom, and it's a little harder. But it's been much better than I thought.
Right. Well, where do you go from here? Where would you like to go? Where would Mike like to go? By the way, Mike, of interest, too, is the fact that when Jim was coaching Pittsburgh for the Steelers, he drafted Mike Vrabel as a linebacker there, but he came on as a rookie with the Steelers.
Yeah, Coach Coach Vrabel for 3 years before I took the head job in New Orleans, and I think he left the following year and went to New England. And they did a great job up there utilizing Mike because he's really athletic and playing tight end and fullback and linebacker. And he's a football nut. He loves football. He can talk football from like 5 in the morning till 9 at night if you give it to him. So it's always good to work for coaches that like the business.
Yes,
like
indeed.
Yourself, Coach.
Where do they want to go? What are your plans to going forward? I know you probably pretty much like we did in the past. Really, when you boil down the time schedule, you're going to get a little time off from mid-June to the end of June, maybe first week or so of July.
Yeah.
And then back to camp. Is that pretty much it?
Well, it's we're kind of there. We work 4 days this week and 4 next week. Kind of give the players Friday off. From that standpoint, that gives us time to get ready for meetings, and we do other stuff. But no one's really sure yet. You read these things. Somebody wrote an article the other day. They're going to let coaches back in the building. Well, they can't say that because every state's different, every county's different. Davidson County in Nashville hasn't even opened up the gyms yet, so no one's really sure how that's going to play out. Somebody wrote we're going to have mini camps. That's not sure how that plays out. You're really kind of up in the air, and no one's really sure how this is going to all play out. We're preparing to go to camp like normal. We're preparing to have practice like normal, and then if things change, we'll adjust to it like everybody else does, like the strike in 1987 that I was involved in, or somebody holding that. I mean, it's the same stuff. So there'll be football, I think, at some point. You said it before. We've talked about it. Sometimes you practice 2-3 weeks and you go. You play the game. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but we'll be ready. Our team's ready. This is the third year in the same system under Coach Rabel. I think our players are excited. Obviously, they went to the championship game last year and lost, but bunch of young guys. They play hard. Good team. Good guys. So we'll see what happens.
Well, let me ask you, I know it's going to be tough. I got a couple that are rather difficult here, but without having really had a chance to work with them on the field, but just based on the type of association you have had with them through the virtual opportunity, how do you feel about some of the guys, some of the new guys, a couple of the younger guys? And how do you feel they're gonna play a role in your team with your team this year?
Yeah, you know what? It's hard to tell. I watched the young guys that we signed, the free agents and the draft picks. You watch them on tape, and you got a good feel for them. I'm really impressed with the 2 rookies that we signed, Cal Garrett from Missouri and Kalen Kirsch-Thomas from Arizona State. Really impressed with how smart they are and knowledgeable into the game. Obviously, you see they spend time after we get off the meeting studying. They're really, really intelligent. I think overall as a team, it's a really smart team. I think Coach Rabel does a nice job of, asking questions, keeping them up to speed on everything. So I think it's a good group, good mix. And I think it just comes down to whenever we go back and, there's a lot of things that play into going back. The Players Association has say in it, the coaches, the management. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it.
Right. Well, I don't have any question. Really never have, but it'll be back and be back as near normal as is possible given this most unusual circumstance we're in. But
as a coach, the problem you get excited about this time because you're going to get a little break, and you're going to come back, and every coaches get geared up. They get excited like the players about going to training camp. So that's kind of where you're at right now. You just hope everything works out, and we get the whole training camp, and you get you get to hold all the preseason games and that. And if it doesn't, you have to adjust to it. The teams that adjust the best to it and don't make a big deal and just line up and play, usually the better teams.
You are so right. And I tell you, better have a contingency plan ready for preseason games. My guess is that that could be very limited on preseason.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. I would. Yeah. They want to play. Is there fans? I don't know. There's a lot of things that play into it, Coach. And I'm sure that the NFL office has got all those down. Bill Polian works in the NFL office, and he's about as detailed as anybody I've ever been around. So I'm sure they got all their ducks lined up and they're ready to go.
Yeah, Bill's been on the program a number of times and talked to him about some of the options that they've talked about and they're prepared for in the NFL, and it's quite amazing. They really are looking at all of the different options, and they have a plan for it. They're very well prepared, and some of the options are, a little beyond belief, really, but they're ready for them if it does happen that way. Let me ask you this. Going into division play, I think your division has gotten tougher with the Colts in particular. Have you had any chance to talk as a staff up there in Tennessee about the upcoming season and the people you're going to play against, in particular, your opponents in the division?
Well, basically, we've covered. We've talked about all that. The division, who's got better, who's better, what. Obviously, Indy. I thought he did a nice job fixing his players up. They got a good quarterback. They got a good running back out of Wisconsin. And we've talked about the games early in the season, who we're playing. What do we got to do? What games we're going to break down, look at. So we haven't gotten in great depth yet and all that, especially the preseason stuff. But everybody in the league knows what teams have got better and where they improved and all that, because you're always looking for that mismatch or those guys that you can take advantage of when the opportunity comes around.
Yeah, no question about it. You have to look at opponents and have some idea of what you're going to be facing and how you're going to prepare for them. You have to do that every year. But at any rate, I really know that looking at the division you're in, I can't believe some of the moves that Houston has made. I think they're bad moves, but Indianapolis has really improved themselves as a football team, I think. Let me ask you a couple of hypotheticals here. Who do you think? Let's rate the young quarterbacks right now in the NFL. As you look at them, how would you rate the young quarterbacks? The first five.
That's a good question because, I really, because I watched Joe Burrow and some of those guys come out, the young guys. I mean, I think the league has got a lot of good young quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson's really a good football player. The guy in Jacksonville, Minshew, was much better than I guess people anticipated. So there's always a good influx of young talent. Everybody's looking for that good young quarterback to take over or at some point. So I don't know that much about Love, just what I saw him in Green Bay. I don't think he's going to be able to play up there for a while because the guy they got is a really good football player. So it's kind of up in the air on what you're going to do with them. And, I guess with a young quarterback, how much time you're going to have in camp this year with them. Are they getting any work with the receivers? I mean, all that's going to play into it, I would think.
Right. Well, I know you pay attention primarily to defense. who do you think, what team do you think helped themselves more in the off season? Now, this is everything trades, free agency, draft, whatever. Who helped themselves most defensively as you look around the league?
No, I don't know. You know, getting Buckner at Indy was big. He's a really good football player. Some of the draft picks that people took early, I thought, you know, there was excellent corners in this draft, pass rushers, galore, you know, linebackers. Murray was a really good player. So I think all those teams that got those guys, I mean, they're gonna improve. I think the big thing this year, Coach, is, you know, how much time will they get on the grass? When will they be ready? You know, I think that's always going to be a concern of the head coach. You know, how much are they in shape when they come back? What are they going to look like? What are you going to do early? You know, and then obviously the number one thing in the league is if you can keep your players healthy, you have a chance. If you have good players and you're healthy, you got a pretty good chance of winning games.
Yeah, no question about that. Jim, what do they see as far as the new rules that were proposed? What was the position there at Tennessee on the other official in the booth for replays and also the onside kick versus the one play, fourth down, 15?
You know, I'm not really sure what the posture was from Tennessee or the other teams, to be honest with you, because Coach Rabel and John Robinson kind of handle that internally. You know, they do that. I'm not really sure. And to be honest with you, knowing Mike, I don't think he really cares as long as, you know, he knows what it is and he'll adapt and we'll work those situations as they come up. But I'm really, really not sure what their posture was on that, to be honest with you.
Well, let me be more specific. What is yours? I know what mine would be as a defensive coach. I've worked all game and was in a situation where we're ahead and somebody gets a chance to throw up a basketball play and stay in the ball game. I don't think I'd like it too much.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of all that stuff. You know, all that stuff's because they think someone's going to get hurt and you know, the percentages, they give you the percentages onside kickers, 10%. Well, that's at one point in football, that was an exciting play. You know, their chances of getting a 4th and 15 are about 10% too. So, you know, I don't know. The NFL comes up with some crazy ideas too that, you know, you can call a pass interference on offense. I mean, they come out, I don't know where they come up with something that bad happens. A referee messes up, and they come up with a new rule. So I'm not really sure. I just know whatever they implement, I know we'll work on it. And if it's a 4th and 15, which I don't know if that'll pass or not, but if it's a 4th and 15, and they're going to do that, you know, we'll have a defense ready for them. You know, whether you blitz or you play coverage or you drop 8, you know, but we'll be ready for all those situations.
Right. A quarterback take off and coverage breaks down and quarterback takes off and runs for 15 yards, you know. So anyway, enough of that. I gotta switch gears here real quick and ask you about college football. I know you keep an eye on it. Any talk about who you like in college football this year coming up, or any talk around your staff up there or your scouts?
Oh, I got a daughter who went to Clemson, don't forget, so I got to hear that every day about being the best quarterback in the country and the best team in the country. And my college roommate's the athletic director at Clemson, so I got to hear that. And you would have to say that they are one of the teams, and then you got to go to Georgia, Alabama. You know, those teams are always going to be in the mix. Ohio State will always be in the mix. They got a great quarterback. And then, you know, I would say that would probably be the top 4 teams that I know that have a chance to win the championship.
Yeah, I'll tell you right about Clemson. I think if nothing happens with the schedule and so on, that Clemson's got a chance to really have a great year. Their quarterback is.
My daughter already said they got 10 wins. She's trying to figure out who they're playing in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, it may not be too far off, I'll tell you, because
the quarterback is a good player. That's true. He is a good player.
So, the Clemson team, with the talent they have and the depth that they have, the experience that they have, and a quarterback that could be starting for pretty much most of the NFL teams, it's going to be hard. It would be hard to see Clemson losing anywhere right now. But anyway, listen, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I know you've been the phone has worn you out all week, so I do appreciate you taking the time to be on with us, and we'll do it again.
All right. Hey, sounds good. Hey, thank you, guys.
All right, Jim.
That's Jim Haslett right there joining the show. Of course, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. Always great to hear from him. Great to get that insight there. Look, this is a guy that you remember him as a New Orleans Saints coach. You remember those good New Orleans Saints teams leading him to the playoffs there, but people forget how good of a linebacker he really was coming out in the second round there, playing for Buffalo and the Jets as well. Listen, we got to go to a break. When we come back here, we're going to talk a little bit, from David Shaw over in the Pac-12. The Stanford coach has spoken out a little bit on he's a little bit tired of the way the media has perceived the whole Pac-12 in this whole situation. We'll hear what he has to say, as well as some SEC quarterback battles. We'll talk about Alabama's situation as well. Boy, they have one heating up right now. If you didn't know, well, now you know. We'll talk about all that and more right when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Whatever temperatures this summer brings, Family Heating and Air, your Bryant family authorized dealer, is ready to help. With over 100 years of combined experience in the heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration industry, the NATE certified technicians are equipped to handle your needs. From a quick fix to a new cooling system, Family Heating and Air will do whatever it takes for your family's comfort. Schedule an appointment today by calling Family Heating and Air, 850-607-7478, or online, familyheatingandac.com. You can always depend on family.
I'm Troy Rafferty, and many of you know about my love for sports and my longtime support for our local high school athletes. One thing these fine young people have taught me over the years is this: whether it's on the ball field, in the classroom, or in a court of law, always work your hardest and achieve the best results possible. And that is the commitment we make to our clients and our community.
Levin Papantonio in Pensacola since 1955.
Introducing Beehive Homes of Gulf Breeze, an all-inclusive facility with incredible amenities and a BS and RN on staff for healthcare management. With the best staff to resident ratio in the Panhandle, a new additional home opening in June with a beautiful and secure nature walk between the residents, and all of the great activities, transportation, and wonderful features makes them stand out above the rest. Beehive Homes of Gulf Breeze on Gulf Breeze Parkway and beehivehomes.com. Call 850-688-9199.
This is Davis Allen from Sports Call with Davis and Justin, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson. On this Friday afternoon, hope you're doing well. Weekend's right around the corner. Of course, things are opening up. Everybody seems to be doing such a great job around here, but continue to practice social distancing. Once again, we're talking some football. We appreciate Jim Haslett coming on the show with us. Of course, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. You remember him as the head coach there for the New Orleans Saints. Always good to hear from him. I know he's a great friend of the show and a great friend of yours as well, Coach. I want to stay on this college football side of things here. I think it's interesting because, listen, we talked about the Pac-12. Now, they announced, of course, earlier this week that June 15th that players could return to campus. Now, we see this in the SEC. We've seen it in the ACC. We've seen these other conferences make a statement, but the Pac-12 is a little bit different. Now, more so with the state of California and where they're at with Governor Newsom. We've talked about that. But I think it's interesting because David Shaw, of course, the Stanford head coach, a well-respected man. I respect what he's been able to do there at Stanford. It's a lot tougher to coach at Stanford than a lot of other universities. Ask Vanderbilt as well. But nonetheless, he just wanted to set some things straight, and I think it's important. He said, of course, he was disappointed with multiple media personalities from some TV networks, maybe we've heard of them, that they failed their audience. They delivered the wrong message, that they misled everyone. He said he liked to razz those who wrote sensational headlines projecting California's football demise, predicting that those in the Golden State would be left behind while the rest of the country played a fall season. He goes, there's a lot of gamesmanship that happens in college football whenever everything's pointed out here at the West Coast, that we don't love football, we don't play real football, and how if we don't do what the SEC is doing, then we're doing it wrong. He just wanted to set the record straight that, listen, we're operating the way just about like everybody else is doing. He said, but it is hard to turn on when all you're hearing is these players should basically transfer out and move on. The Pac-12 is not going to play, everything like that. So he understands what's going on. He's not stupid, but he does want to make this very clear with that being said that a lot of people jump the gun on them. He goes, regardless of whatever you're hearing here, may not be June 15th when we return, but July is very much expected. He said, I want to make sure it's expected. People understand that we will reopen facilities. So it takes a little bit more time, he said, with the state of California, everything that's going on. Coach, I bring this up because we've talked about Pac-12 for quite some time. What's going to happen there? A lot of the schools in the Pac-12, the majority of them are not in California, so things are going on time. Of course, schools like Oregon, Washington State, we'll see what happens there. But, David Shaw coming out, I don't have a problem with him coming out and making it clear. I think it's more of a statement for him standing up for the Pac-12 overall, but it doesn't change what's going on right now in California and what's up in the air. There's a lot of, we talked about this before, politics involved. Well, we hate to talk about politics, but you have to mention it. But, Coach, him coming out and saying that, listen, they're expecting to be back in July, is that a surprise right now? And do you have any problems with David Shaw coming out?
No, not at all. I think you should. Keep in mind now, we've pointed this out before, but in the Pac-12, Stanford is a private school. Southern Cal is a private school. They're not public schools. Of course, UCLA is public. University of California in Berkeley is public. We don't know what would happen there. And in Washington, where they've got an unclear situation, they're public schools. Washington and Washington State are public schools. So we don't know what might happen there. Oregon State are public schools, but you do have some private institutions in that league, and this could be one where politics would demand that you not have a gathering of over X number of people. They could not say, I don't think, that the state could mandate that Stanford and USC could not play football. Now, they might mandate that for the state schools. I'm not sure. It just said I'm not sure. But I don't think they could for private schools, which means that if they had to, they could reduce the size of the crowds and play accordingly and still play football, which I think they would, and which I think maybe David Shaw was saying in his own way, which I think is good. So it's not that the whole Pac-12 might go down, but it's possible that some teams in the Pac-10, Pac-12 could be in jeopardy, so to speak, because of the leanings of the politicians in those states.
Yeah, I think it's important. There's a lot more that goes into it. And listen, I like David Shaw coming out. It's nice to hear from somebody in the Pac-12, to be honest with you. As an Oregon fan, just a lot is up in the air right now. And remember, Oregon is supposed to open up, well, against Ohio State. So big games like that, of course, with Oregon opening up against Auburn last year, there are things that I'm eager about, a little bit more than normal than playing your typical FCS opponents early on in the season. But I think it's important. I'm glad he came out, set the record straight. And listen, for some people, look, we talked about it. If Paul Feinbaum mentioned, we had him on the show yesterday, but Paul Feinbaum mentioned weeks ago that if the Pac-12 is inching toward not playing, and people get that, then these players could transfer out, and they would obviously most likely be granted immediate eligibility. So it'd be interesting what's going on. Now, I personally didn't hear anybody saying the Pac-12 is not going to play, but regardless, I like him coming out. I like to hear from some of these people that were just kind of sitting around wondering what's going to happen. But you are right, Coach. Look, with them being a private school, USC being a private school, UCLA, people like that, it can be interesting because you might be able to play, but you can't have gatherings. And what's going on in California? One thing we've learned with California, Coach, outside of sports, whatever you think is going to happen probably won't happen. I mean, we never know. They do things a little bit different over there. I'm not saying bad, but I'm just saying they're a little bit different over there. So, Coach, I want to transition, or not transition as much as stay on the college football aspect of things real quick before we go to break. JT Daniels. Now, this is, of course, was a good USC quarterback. He was, he started as a freshman, and then he got hurt last year, of course, and it looked like he was going to have a promising season. Transfers to the University of Georgia. Now, this is interesting enough as he is applying to be immediately eligible. We're not sure if that's going to go through or not. I'm not sure how that process works, especially when it comes to the NCAA. Regardless, though, Coach, him transferring, look, this is a Georgia quarterback room that is loaded right now. We assume Jamie Newman is going to be the quarterback, obviously, with everybody talking about him. They also have a Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck. They've got, of course, Brock Vandegrift. People forget he's coming in next year, 2021. He is the top quarterback right now, for ESPN and their rankings there. This is a loaded room. My question, Coach, real quick to you is, do you think this is a good move for JT Daniels? Because for Georgia, it's obviously a good move. Just because you build more depth here, especially with Jamie Newman being a runner, you never know what's going to happen. But is this a good move, in your opinion, for JT Daniels?
I would have to say that it probably is. But when you talk about the quarterback room, one thing you have to remember when you're looking at the University of Georgia overall, as it applies to this season, if Fromm's have another year of eligibility, I don't care who transferred in, he would still be the number one quarterback there. He certainly would be the number one quarterback over the two transfers that are coming in. And, of course, the future, we're not sure of the kid that they've signed to come in. He won't be eligible till next year. But anyway, probably a good move for JT to transfer in, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see, with that move, we'll see what happens with Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. We could see more Georgia quarterbacks leaving, but I agree with you. Jake Fromm's there. Forget about it because he already ran Jacob Eason out of town. He already ran Justin Fields out of town, and you saw how good they were. And I think that's more along the lines of people, people want to say, well, they made a mistake because look how good Justin Fields is. No, I'm pretty sure Georgia made the right move there. We have to remember that. But, look, Coach, we got to go to a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about another quarterback situation here in college football. The Crimson Tide right here, Roll Tide in Alabama. They got an interesting situation, and you know what? It's a good situation for them finally at that quarterback position. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range, Highway 29 in Car City.
Hello, my name is Donald Dellinger, CEO of Comeback Restoration. We use the state-of-the-art cure system proven to destroy harmful bacteria and viruses, helping defend your home or business against coronavirus. We also specialize in fire, water, smoke, mold remediation. Comeback Restoration is certified IICRC firm. Give us a call today, 850-530-5732. That's 850-530-5732. Or go to our website, comebackrestoration.com. Turning your setback into a comeback. God bless.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you, alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson. Talking some football with you here on this Friday afternoon. A couple minutes to go. We appreciate, again, Jim Haslett joining the show with us right there, the inside linebackers coach for the Tennessee Titans. Coach, real quick, look, we talk about the quarterback situation at Georgia there. In Alabama, now we have Mac Jones, Paul Tyson. People forget about Paul Tyson. Of course, Bear Bryant's grandson there. A lot of good bloodlines. And Bryce Young, the five-star athlete out of California, the dual-threat quarterback. My question to you, Coach, is right now, are you hearing anything outside of just that Mac Jones right now is predicted to be the starter in for the opening game there for the Crimson Tide?
No, and he should be. Listen, I like Mac Jones. I've said this consistently. And he should be the starter. He came in last year, played extremely well. It was obvious that he was prepared when he had to go in and play. Except for the 2 interceptions that he had, everything else was as well as you could play it as a quarterback. So I think Alabama's in good shape at quarterback, and Mike Jones should be the quarterback. I'm not sure how they'll play. I think their good coaching staff innovated, and they'll find a way to utilize some of the talent of other people. But Mike Jones should be the quarterback.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Coach. I like Mac Jones. I know a lot of people, of course, him throwing the 2 pick sixes in the Auburn game there. It doesn't matter. You know what? That happens for a young quarterback. Remember, he was thrown into a situation where, you're right, he was absolutely ready to play. And you know what? A guy that's played behind Tua, how often do you think you're really going to play? Let's be honest, the mental aspect of that, you can't dismiss it. But another guy, we talk about, Bryce Young, a lot of people are saying, you know what? They believe Mac Jones is going to be the starter. But a guy like Bryce Young is going to be implemented in the offense some way just because of his dynamic ability. And, just before, I know, just to kind of remind people here, Paul Tyson, this is a guy that if something was to happen, of course with Mac Jones, Paul Tyson could throw the football. So this is a great situation for the University of Alabama right now, especially with what they have coming back. But going to be really interesting to see what happens with that squad. If you're an Alabama fan, get ready because it should be a good season. But, Coach, we had a great show. That's how it's time for us to go as usual. We appreciate Jim coming on the show with us. But you know what? It's been a pleasure.
You bet. And we look forward to next week. Everybody have a great weekend.
Absolutely. You as well, Coach. Have a great one. We appreciate it. We appreciate you as our listeners right now. Look, we'll be back Monday talking some football with you right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
To the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
First Take Your Take on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz. Getting you all the headlines that you need to know. Starting off the hour, David Price has agreed to pay Los Angeles Dodgers minor leaguers $1,000 each to help during coronavirus. So he hasn't thrown a pitch yet for the Dodgers, but he's made a huge impact. The all-star left-hander will pay each minor league player who's not on the Dodgers 40-man roster $1,000 for the month of June, sources confirmed to ESPN. Incredible kindness that will impact just over 200 people facing unprecedented financial difficulty in that minor league system. So obviously the Dodgers had already committed to continuing their $400 a week payments to minor league players, domestic as well as those training out in the team's facility in the Dominican Republic through the month of June. But remember, the A's decided to cease those payments at the end of this week. Other teams might follow suit. So David Price getting out there, using his money to do something about it to help the rest of the guys that are in that organization. Speaking of within the organization, finally have now heard from Bradley Beal, the Wizards star, as he was asked about being part of trade rumors. And even in the middle of a pandemic, his name has emerged. The New York Daily News last week reported that the Nets have had internal discussions about pursuing the 26-year-old Wizards guard who signed a 2-year, $72 million extension in October. His quote, "It's not the first time I've heard this kind of talk. It's interesting to me. I look at it as a sign of respect that I've been doing good things and guys want to play for me." So obviously Bradley Beal keeping a little perspective here, and a reminder that the Nets nowhere near done dealing, as they're going to continue to try and gear up next year for some sort of a run at the NBA championship. And lastly, on your headlines, the NCAA has offered a plan to bring athletes back to campus. They released a long, detailed plan Friday. A lot of heavy reading on this to help schools bring back athletes back to campus during the pandemic. The resocialization of college sports action plan considerations was announced as schools across the country prepare for the return of football players as early at some schools as June 8th. So last week, the council voted to lift a moratorium on athletic activities starting Monday. That cleared the way for voluntary workouts and training to begin at team facilities. Now there's a bit of a plan put in place by the NCAA. So the next step towards moving forward. First Take Your Take on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and ESPN News. Those are the headlines that you need to know. I will continue to say throughout the course of the morning that this is a very, very heavy day for the world, for America, for many of you that are listening. This is a heavy day for me. It's a very sad day for so many of us with what's been going on across the country and specifically in Minneapolis. I understand that. There's nothing I can do to fix that right now in this moment. I'll continue to try and have dialogue with everybody I can to do better, be better, and demand better of each other and the people that are in your lives. In the meantime, all we can do on this show is try and offer some level of escapism. That's still my job, and that's still our job here at ESPN. So what we're going to try and do is escape a little bit with sports talk. That's the best we can do to try and give everybody at least a small reprieve right now. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. So we're doing that by having you be a part of the conversation. We're trying to ask you, should league champions have an asterisk next to their wins given the changes in the playoffs? Why? Why not? Yes, no. Tell us the answer. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. You can also tweet me at Jason Fitz. Matt in South Dakota, what do you got? What's your take, my friend?
Yeah, so Tristan called in, and he said that teams like the 96 Bulls or the 73-win Warriors, those are kind of your exemptions from stuff like that. Well, and I'd counter that by saying the 73-win Warriors lost. You know, there is no guarantee or gimme, but we've seen so far that leagues like the NHL or the NBA, they're not taking a fast approach to this. They're figuring out a way that they can get a full field from each conference with the best 8 teams from each conference into that field to have a full playoff. So I don't see the need for an asterisk or anything like that when you have teams like the Timberwolves or the Warriors who weren't going to be playing in anyway and had no shot. These teams all were going to be there to begin with at the end of the season. So there's no need for an asterisk.
I see your take on it. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling the show. I think to Tristan's point, he was more saying if a team had dominated the entirety of the regular season and then went on to win the truncated or expanded playoff, however it ends up looking, would there be some level of, you don't put an asterisk next to that because it's proof of concept to what you already saw in the regular season, as opposed to losing in the playoffs. Now, that being said, I think one of the mindsets for me is specifically looking at the NHL. They've expanded the playoff, at least in this proposal with the NHL. Well, we all know that a hot goalie can get you to the Stanley Cup. So we might have a situation where a goalie gets hot on a team that otherwise wouldn't have made the playoffs and then suddenly finds themselves running through the playoffs all the way to possibly the championship, or at least to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup, or at least to get to the point that they're in the Stanley Cup final. So should that happen, how do we approach that? I think that's where it gets a little more difficult. Like if the NBA expands their 16-team playoff just because they want to find a way to cram Zion into this thing somehow, what's it mean? So that's why we're asking the question. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We'll get some thoughts on the hockey side of it, particularly from one of the best in just a minute. But let's get to some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Should there be an asterisk? Well, that's what Max, Dominique, and Jalen Rose debated today on First Take.
Yes, of course. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's diminished in some way, that it's a lesser thing, because Wendy is right. You've overcome more in this season, but it's not a typical season. I expect something funky to happen because of the much smaller, not just smaller sample size, but because of the circumstances changing suddenly and as drastically as they did. I even think about 99, guys, when the Knicks were an 8 seed that made it to the finals. That never happens, right? But it happened in that season because it was abbreviated. They played 50 games or something like that. And oftentimes you'll hear people say when they talk about the Spurs dynasty, if you're arguing with someone about it, they won 5 championships. Well, 4.5 because of 99. Fair or not, whether there's literally an asterisk or not, there is in people's minds. There's something signifying that this season was different. Maybe under normal circumstances, that team wouldn't have won and that team would have. It's entirely possible, particularly if reseeding occurs, since there's no travel, especially when you hear so many talking about this is an opportune time to try things that you ordinarily wouldn't. Enough has changed that I think whoever wins, people say, oh, that was a little different. And guys, Dominique, you think the Lakers are going to win. I think the Clippers are going to win. If the Denver Nuggets win, if Utah wins, if something like that happens, let alone if the team you predict doesn't, don't tell me you won't think that these unusual circumstances had something to do with it.
I absolutely do think that unusual circumstances will have something to do with it, but unusual circumstances have something to do with every season. We just have to go back to last NBA season. There were unusual circumstances there that led to who we found out who the champion was. You said yesterday that the Warriors would have won if they didn't have 2 catastrophic injuries to their best players. So there are unusual things that are going to happen. This is, Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant.
Yeah, no, I'm saying,
players.
But I would have taken the Raptors to win had Klay not got
either
hurt,
way,
and it was just Durant. I still would have taken that. We can't prove that. It's what happened.
Yeah, either way, it doesn't matter. But, there are always unusual circumstances. I agree that this year is going to be really unusual. The circumstances are going to be heightened, but I wouldn't put any sort of asterisk next to this because even though I understand what you're saying and what Wendy said, and I said it a few weeks ago, that I do think that this champion is almost more or might be more impressive than other champions, that's not the way we use asterisks. When we use that, we talk about about Barry Bonds or Mark McGuire. Those are the type of things we use it with to talk about people who potentially use PEDs. Like, it's not a positive thing. It's never been a positive thing. So if you want to change it to something else, maybe you want to do a star or a hashtag next to it. I don't know what symbol you want to do, a semicolon, something that makes it look positive. That's fine.
You want to
that's
change
not what
it?
That's not what an asterisk is.
Stigmatized.
Has it not been? Like, it has been stigmatized. That's what it means. It represents something negative, and I don't think that whoever wins this championship should feel any less. And honestly, no one says that the Spurs won 4.5 titles. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that. When you just said it a few minutes ago, no one talked.
Have you never had a sports argument?